Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Glad to have you here. And today we have another Steel Faith Overhaul mod game, and I'll be taking my Goblin army here against the Empire. And we are playing at kind of a strange money level here. We're only playing with 10,000 gold, so definitely a little bit different of a feel and very different armies. Because you can't fully flesh out kind of the various portions of your army like you can in a higher gold matchup. So what you can see here is I do have two nasty skulkers out on each flank, one in the back protecting my artillery. I have one Night Goblin and one Apex Loonies up here for some non-armor piercing damage, and I am trying these guys out because it is a new mod, so I don't know if they're any good or not. So we'll definitely see in this battle. You can see stock and Vanguard there, so nothing new. Behind them I do have a firing line. I do have both of the Regiments of Renown goblins up front. I have an Orc Shaman over here with some abilities. I think I have Foot of Gork and Fists of Gork. And over here I do have a Itchy Nuisance on a Night Goblin Shaman along with some Sneaky Stealin'. You can see my rocks are already flying here. I do have a Night Goblin War Boss here on a Squig, just because going cheap as I can. So some nice anti-infantry power there. In the back, I do have Orc Boar Boy Biggins, and in this mod, they don't actually have they don't have anti-large here, so they're really just kind of an armor-piercing cap. But you know, they're still armor-piercing, and they still move decently fast. So still will be okay at taking down flyers. You can see I do have two sets of Hammer of Gork and Goblin Rocklobber, and far out on this flank, I have some Goblin Wolf Riders. Then up front, I do have some Mangy Marauders. So definitely an auto pick for me these days. And in this mod, it's no different. I think they are actually just a little bit cheaper in this mod, which is nice. But I don't believe they still have immunity to psychology, which is very good on a unit that can get caught with some Miss Micro. So over here, you can see let's follow this rock in. Oh man, just gonna jib a bunch of those Free Company Militia. Oh man, that one is sadly going to miss. But you can see my opponent here has a main line of Free Company Militia, and in this mod they're actually way more dangerous. They do have 27 missile damage, and it's mostly armor piercing, so definitely a terrifying unit here. Definitely I think will be more useful in a wider variety of fights because of that armor-piercing damage. You can see backed up by some halberdiers, and he does have a witch hunter here, and you can see him running with his pistol and sword here, and they of course did get way buffed in this mod, so definitely a powerful force. And something interesting they did in this mod was they wanted to incentivize people to use ground heroes. So look at this. This General of the Empire actually has a pistol in one hand and a hammer in the other. So you can see he has that 539 missile damage weapon attack. So definitely an interesting dynamic, and that's only when you're on foot. So definitely interesting and definitely can do some damage. And you know, when he's lower health, it gives him an option to shoot in against large targets or large targets that are kind of just running away from him constantly. He can just shoot them instead and still do some good damage. Behind them, you see he does have Witch Hunter Retinue. Great unit here, and you can see he does have this Prayer of Binding on them. So a net-like ability here on these guys, and they do just a ton of damage. They have great missile damage, and they are anti-large. So definitely we'll have to be wary of them. And Vanguard in the back, he has the Silver Bullets, which is a great pick. And there are these new units, these Huntsmen here. They're about like 500 gold cost, and they do have an anti-large, so they're made to like fight cav or large monsters. Their stock and their range allows them to kind of be deployed back here where I don't notice them. And over here you can see he has some more. And I wasn't sure about their melee stats, so I wasn't too willing to kind of just drop my Mangy Marauders on them. Over here you can see he does have some Empire Knights in the back, vetted up pretty high. But definitely I have the cavalry advantage here, and you can see I'm opening fire, and you can see my rock lobbers are doing incredible damage to these Free Company Militia. So we're hoping to keep that up here, because we don't want to just charge our goblins in. I want to try and move my units in as he's moving forward. So if he has to move forward and stop halfway in the move because my stocked units appear, and then fire, he's going to get way less damage done than if I rush a stationary line. So that's kind of the goal here. I see him moving forward, and so I'm going to start rushing all my troops in. But he does kind of stop very quickly, which is nice, and he's just going to open fire on my poor Night Goblins. They luckily do have silver shields, thank the Lord, so they're not going to be taking as much damage as I think. And you can see I'm going to bring my Goblin Big Boss in here, and if you don't have your guys on guard mode, they will not keep firing. So over here you can see his Huntsmen are laying down the law, and my Morgrim Marauders, definitely some weakness. Oh man, and I missed a foot of Gork here. I just was going mostly for disruption here, so I put it in between these units and just dropped a big old foot of Gork, trying to give my Night Goblins any edge they could. And I'm feeling pretty confident because these halberds are not going to have a good time against really anything I have. But what the problem is, all these vanguarded units, and I really don't have enough cavalry to deal with it, and I would have enough cavalry actually, but for some reason I thought these guys were going to be Orc Boarboy Biggins, so I was like, oh man, they can totally take Empire Knights, and they are going to get charged here and just decimated. These poor guys, this is not the fight they want here, so they're going to die. But they're going to disrupt those guys, and you can see Itchy Nuisance being dropped here, trying to support my Warlord's boys. My more troops coming in. You can see I have some nasty skulkers ready to pull in. My archers are firing, and then these guys are headed after these huntsmen. But they're really slow, so might not happen for a while. And you can see I'm still opening fire here, trying to target the halberds in the back. And I'm just kind of hoping my main line holds here. But shooting myself in the back with artillery is probably not the best choice. Silver bullets are going to come over here and start firing. These witch hunters are going to come over here and start firing. So this is not a good position to be in. So I'm going to switch my targets here to these guys because I know my Hammer of Gork actually does have a blind mechanic, I believe. Yeah, so gives them a ton of minus accuracy. So if I can get those on those guys, my Orc Boar boys might have a chance of surviving, or at least distracting them for a longer period of time. So you can see this guy in here just like laying down the law with his hammer, not really firing anything. You can see they did clean up my poor Goblin Wolf Riders, and you can see just a ton of archer fire coming down in here on these guys. I do just drop my Morgrim's Ranged Marauders in here, so I'm going to shut them down, but you can see my poor Orc Boarboy Biggins are going to take a ton of damage there. But I'm going to bring in some AP Xylines over here to hunt them down. So really? Oh, I keep missing the foots of Gork. But I dropped another one over here. And you can see my Night Goblin Shaman in there just poking things. Not really doing much, but he does have 355 weapon strength, so he's not the worst. You can see my Squig in here eating folk. And I don't believe he counts as large, so definitely not the worst position for him. And you can see just slowly picking off those range units have helped me. And now it's really just these elite units, these Witch Hunter retinue. So you can see I'm switching my target here, trying to put some damage in on them, and they're actually pretty armored. So the armor sundering is definitely going to help there. And these archers are Goblin archers are pretty good, so they can really do some good damage if you give them the firing arc. In the middle here, you can see this Orc Shaman is going to try and fight this General of the Empire. But there's just going to be too many heroes in here, and nasty Skulkers are actually pretty good because they're 100% damage. And they're decently high melee attack. So they're going to be pretty good. I really just want to see more of these guys. Yeah, you can see arrows just poking out of every one of them. Yeah. They are so cool. I love these like golden Warlord boys. But over here, yeah, you can see it's really just going to be army losses at this point. My swarm of goblins was able to overcome the firing line. But can you imagine if I had brought black orcs against those free company militia? They would have just been slaughtered, almost to the man, I believe, or orc. So you can see these goblins really paid off with their stock. You can see the Morgrove's Mangy Marauders, 106 kills. You can see my artillery, 160, 160. There are more unit models in this mod, so the kill counts tend to skyrocket. You can see my Orc Warboy Biggins. Shutting down those Huntsmen probably didn't pay for themselves, though. They did just kind of distract the enemy. You can see my firing line just doing their job, and really these Night Goblins performing pretty well. Much better than in vanilla. But you can see these Free Company Militia, definitely where I managed to isolate him, and you can see these Huntsmen did not getting too many kills, but this Witch Hunter retinue definitely doing the work. But anyways, great game of Vermin, and this should be the beginning of kind of like a Steel Faith Overhaul week. So sorry, I'll eventually get back to quick battles, but I got a number of really good battles with some of these guys, and I will be showing them in the future. Anyways, thanks so much, and that's that.